In the quiet village of Loquin, there lived a young girl named Sira. Sira had a special talent, or so she thought. She loved to talk, especially about other people. Every morning, she'd find her spot under the big mango tree at the village center, her eyes darting everywhere, soaking up every bit of gossip like a sponge. Nothing escaped her notice: the comings and goings of traders, the secrets of the elders, the worries of wives, and the dreams of young girls hoping for marriage. For Sira, knowing everyone's business wasn't just a hobby. It was a source of power. It made her feel important, like she held the strings of the village in her hands. Her father, Papa Sira, a kind and hard-working man, often tried to caution her. He was a man who valued respect and wisdom above all else. "Sira, my child," he would say gently, "words are like seeds. If you plant bad seeds, you will harvest bad fruit." But Sira would just laugh, waving his words away. "Oh, Papa," she replied, "they are just words. They can't hurt anyone." She truly believed they were weightless, harmless puffs of air. Little did she know, her words carried a weight she couldn't yet see. Nearby, Baba Jimut, the village herbalist, often observed Sira from a distance. He was a man of few words, but his eyes saw everything. Each time a fresh rumor left Sira's lips and spread through the village like wildfire, he would shake his head, a deep line of concern etched on his brow. He understood the unseen damage Sira was causing, the invisible wounds she was inflicting with her careless tongue. He knew that the seeds she was planting would one day sprout, and the harvest would be a bitter one. One sunny market day, Sira's gaze fell upon a young girl named Amy. Amy was sitting quietly, trying to sell a small pile of yams. There was a deep sadness in her eyes, a loneliness that clung to her like a shadow. A kinder person might have asked what was wrong, offered a word of comfort, but Sira saw an opportunity. Leaning over to a woman next to her, she whispered a vicious lie. "You see that girl, Amy," she murmured. "Her mother was a thief. That's why they have nothing." The lie was like poison, spreading from ear to ear, faster than any truth. Soon, the marketplace, once a place of community, turned hostile for Amy. People began to steer clear of her stall. They would point at her, their whispers following her like a cruel echo. "Thief's daughter," they'd mutter. The shame and pain were too much for Amy to bear. Overwhelmed, she dropped her yams, the sound lost in the market's noise, and fled towards the river, hot tears streaming down her face. Later that day, when Sira heard that Amy had been found crying by the river for hours, she felt a flicker of satisfaction, not remorse. She simply laughed and told her friends, "That girl is just too sensitive." Feeling emboldened by the attention her stories brought her, Sira's gossip grew more reckless. Her next target was Mama Lena, a respected woman who sold meat at the market. Sira started a rumor that Mama Lena was selling spoiled meat. The lie took hold immediately. Customers who had trusted Mama Lena for years suddenly turned away. Her stall, usually bustling with activity, stood empty. Her fresh meat sat untouched under the hot sun. With tears welling in her eyes, Mama Lena confronted Sira, her voice trembling. "Why, Sira? Why are you doing this to me?" she pleaded. "I have a family to feed." But Sira, wrapped in her own self-importance, just crossed her arms and said coolly, "I only said what I heard." Mama Lena walked away, her heart shattered, leaving Sira standing smugly by the mango tree. That very night, something strange happened. As Sira lay in her bed, she heard whispers outside her window. They were soft, like the rustling of leaves, but a chill ran down her spine as she recognized the words. They were her own lies, repeating back to her in the darkness. Her mother was a thief, selling spoiled meat. She tried to dismiss it as the wind, but the voices were too clear. The next morning, she woke up to a shock. Her lips felt tight and looked slightly swollen. She brushed it off as a bug bite and went about her day, returning to her spot under the mango tree to spin more tailies. But with every new lie she told, her lips grew heavier, larger, puffier. Soon, people in the village started to notice. They would stare and whisper as she passed, but this time the whispers were about her. "Look at Sira's lips. They say what's happening to her. Still, Sira tried to laugh it off, pretending it was nothing, even as speaking became difficult. But one day, the truth became undeniable. Glancing at her reflection in a water pail, she let out a scream of pure terror. Her lips had swollen to an unnatural, grotesque size. Sobbing, she ran into her father's arms, finally scared and confused. That night, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent, a relentless chorus of all the pain she had caused. Baba Jimit, the wise herbalist, heard the gossip about Sira's condition. He simply murmured to those who would listen, "She is harvesting what she has planted," but the villagers, seeking a simpler explanation, found a scapegoat. They began to accuse Mama Lena of witchcraft, claiming she had cursed Sira for revenge. Mama Lena's suffering doubled as she was now shunned and feared. Papa Sira, however, refused to believe this. He knew Mama Lena was a good woman. Determined to find the real cause, he decided to seek help outside the village. He took his daughter on a long journey to a powerful seer in a neighboring village. The old woman looked at Sira not with medical instruments, but with ancient, knowing eyes. She studied the girl for a long time before speaking. "This is not a disease of the body," she said, her voice raspy like dry leaves. "It is a sickness of the spirit, born from her words. She has wounded a heart that was already full of pain. Only true forgiveness from the one she hurt most can break this curse." Returning to Loquin, Sira, humbled and desperate, began her path to redemption. She went to Mama Lena and, with genuine tears in her eyes, begged for forgiveness. Mama Lena, seeing her remorse, forgave her. She even went to Baba Jimit, who also offered his forgiveness, but nothing changed. Her lips remained swollen, and the nightly whispers continued to haunt her. The curse held fast. It seemed the seer's words were true. She had not yet found the heart she had wounded most deeply. The answer came during a village gathering. Baba Jimit stepped into the center of the circle, holding a small torn piece of cloth. "This was found by the river," he announced, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. "It belongs to Amy." At the mention of her name, Amy, who had been hiding in the back, came forward, trembling. All eyes turned to her as she finally told her story. Her mother wasn't a thief. She had collapsed at the market because she was starving, having given her last piece of food to her child. T.O. Amy. Hearing Sira's cruel lie on top of her grief was the final blow. Amy confessed that she had run to the river and, in her agony, had cried out a desperate wish that Sira's mouth would never stop growing, so she could never hurt anyone again. Upon hearing this, the weight of her cruelty finally crushed Sira. She fell to her knees before Amy, her own sobs shaking her whole body. "I'm so sorry, Amy," she wept. "Please, please forgive me." There was a long, heavy silence. The entire village held its breath. Then, Amy, looking at the broken girl before her, slowly nodded. "I forgive you," she whispered. At that exact moment, a warm, gentle wind swept through the village square. Slowly, miraculously, Sira's lips began to shrink, returning to their normal size. The whispers in her head went silent, replaced by a profound peace. From that day forward, Sira was a changed person. The girl who loved to gossip was gone, replaced by a woman who spoke with kindness and compassion. She learned that words were never just words. They were powerful forces that could build bridges or tear down lives. She had harvested the bitter fruit of her actions, but through forgiveness, she was given a second chance to plant a garden of healing and hope. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss our next story.